This is the story of Jesus and the adulterous woman as found in John chapter 8. As the first rays of dawn break through the morning sky, a crowd of people is already waiting in the temple for Jesus. When he arrives, he patiently makes his way to his typical seat, sits down, and prepares to teach the people. Before he can even open his mouth, however, there's already a disturbance in the back of the crowd, and it splits to allow a surprising group of people to the front. The Pharisees, who were Jewish religious leaders who hated Jesus' teachings, are escorting a woman who is clearly distressed and fearful. Murmurs run through the crowd. What could this possibly mean? A Pharisee clears his throat and begins to address Jesus, but clearly speaks loud enough for everyone to hear him. "Teacher," he begins, feigning reverence, but there's disgust in his voice. "This woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law that was passed down to us from Moses, we're commanded to kill such offenders by stoning them to death. Now, what do you say?" The Pharisee steps backward to allow Jesus the floor again, a glint in his eyes. Jesus stares at the man for a moment. He knows exactly why he's being asked this question. The Pharisees could care less about the fate of the woman. Sure, they will kill her for breaking the law if they need to, but in their minds this isn't about her. It's about him. The Pharisee believes that his question has Jesus trapped. If Jesus chooses to honor the laws that the Jewish people have lived under for centuries, he'll have to order the death of this woman in front of a crowd. However, if he doesn't honor the law, his followers will begin to question his credibility and authority as the fulfillment of the Jewish religion. It's certainly a clever trap, but Jesus isn't fooled. In fact, he takes this opportunity to teach the Pharisees, the crowd, and the woman an important lesson on sin and grace and what both of those truly are. Bending down, he begins to write on the ground with his finger. The Pharisees smirk, thinking he's stalling. "Teacher, perhaps you misheard us. We were asking you a question. What should we do with this woman?" Jesus continues writing, and the crowd begins to whisper. What could Jesus possibly be doing? The woman squirms under the scrutiny, still uncertain whether Jesus will choose to help her or not. After a few minutes of repeated questioning, the crowd has grown restless, and the Pharisees are furious. They begin to question Jesus for what feels like the 1,000th time, when he finally rises to his feet. He wipes the stray hair from his forehead, stares at each section of the crowd in turn, and then says, "Let any one of you who is without sin, who has never done anything wrong, be the first to throw a stone at her." And with that, he crouches down and continues writing in the dust. Silence falls over the crowd as people stare at each other, speechless. Then, one by one, they start to leave. Pharisees drop their stones and gather their coats, casting furious glares over their shoulder at the crouching figure of their enemy. Soon, only Jesus and the woman are left, the woman frozen to the spot in fear of what Jesus will say next. Jesus straightens once more, wiping his hands on the hem of his robe. "Woman, where are they?" he asks gently. "Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she replies softly. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus says, having known from the moment that he stepped into the temple that morning what would happen. But he isn't done yet. Just as gently, just as powerfully, Jesus looks at the woman for the last time. "Go now and leave your life of sin," he says. She meets his gaze, nods, and then hurries away. As the morning sun rises high into the sky, the crowds return to the temple, and Jesus begins to teach them once more.